You already know this aircraft, but here is what you have never been told. The reason it is still flying has nothing to do with tradition, nothing to do with budget. The real reason is stranger than either of those things. And by the end of this video, you are going to work it out before I tell you, because every piece you need is already inside this story. We are going to cover 3 things. The engineering decisions that should have made this bomber obsolete before it ever flew. The single event in 1960 that rewrote every mission plan the Air Force had. And why the most advanced Air Force on Earth still cannot replace a bomber designed before your parents were born. October 1948, that enormous gray fuselage. Those 8 engines hanging in pods beneath the wings. USAIR Force stenciled across the side in letters big enough to read from 100 meters away. This aircraft had not yet flown a single mission, and it had just been rejected by the United States Air Force. The design called for straight wings and propeller engines at a time when jet technology was changing everything. The Air Force wanted jets. Boeing had handed them yesterday. The team was given a weekend to fix it. Not a month, not 3 weeks. A weekend. Picture the scene. A hotel room in Dayton, Ohio. Friday night. No computers, no simulations, pencils, slide rules, and a deadline that would decide whether Boeing stayed in the bomber business at all. Coffee going cold, the clock moving, and somewhere in that room, a set of decisions being made that nobody in the room understands will still matter 100 years later. By Monday morning, they had complete blueprints, a detailed cost estimate, and a hand-built scale model carved from balsa wood. The Air Force approved it on the spot. Now most people hear that story and think, impressive, but that is not the right reaction. Ask yourself this instead. What kind of design survives a single weekend and still works a century later? Hold that question. The answer is coming. The wing. When a B-52 sits on the ground, the wingtips droop toward the tarmac under their own weight. Each tip has a small outrigger wheel underneath it to stop it scraping the ground on takeoff. The first time you see that, it looks like a flaw. Something that should have been caught and corrected. It was not a flaw. Watch what happens at altitude. When the wings fill with lift, they rise into their correct flying position. That flex absorbs turbulence that would crack a rigid structure. In low-level terrain following flight, skimming the Earth to avoid radar detection, the wing bends and recovers thousands of times per mission. Engineers later calculated that flex extended the airframe life by decades. The hotel room engineers had accidentally designed in decades of additional service life without knowing they were doing it. But here's the question I want you to sit with. Why would a wing that looks broken on the ground work perfectly in the air? What does that tell you about the kind of machine this actually is? 8 engines, not 4, not 6, 8, arranged in pairs in 4 pods hanging beneath the wings. The originals were replaced long ago with more efficient turbofans. The number stayed the same, and that number is not about thrust. It is about stubbornness. With 8 engines, you can lose 2 and barely notice, lose 3 and still complete the mission. During Vietnam, B-52s came home with battle damage that had no right to leave a crew alive. Engines on fire, hydraulic systems gone, partial control surfaces. Crews landed aircraft that physics said should have been wreckage. They landed them because they still had engines working that no other aircraft would have had left. Here is a question worth asking. If you were building a bomber for a world where anti-aircraft fire is unpredictable, do you build in just enough engine power to fly? Or do you build in so much redundancy that losing 1/3 of your engines is a setback, not a death sentence? You already know which answer the hotel room engineers chose. You know because the aircraft is still here, the bomb bay. This is where the B-52 stops being impressive and starts being genuinely frightening. The internal bomb bay was built around one principle. Not for the weapons of 1948, not for the threats of 1960, for weapons that had not been invented yet and could not be predicted. Today, that bay carries conventional bombs, nuclear warheads, cruise missiles, and hypersonic weapons, traveling at 5 times the speed of sound, up to 70,000 pounds of mixed ordnance, delivered from distances that keep the aircraft entirely outside the defensive range of most modern air defense systems. It does not need to get close. Its weapons do the work. The engineers who designed that bay were not thinking about hypersonic missiles. Those did not exist. They were refusing to optimize for a specific threat because they understood that threats change. A wing built to flex. Engines built to absorb loss. A bomb bay built for weapons not yet imagined. Are you starting to see it? Now I need to tell you about 1960, because 1960 almost ended everything. In May of that year, an American U-2 reconnaissance aircraft was shot down over the Soviet Union at 70,000 feet. The pilot survived. The aircraft did not. And the event destroyed every strategic assumption the Air Force had built its entire doctrine around. Until that moment, the B-52's mission profile was built on altitude. Fly high, fly fast, above the ceiling of Soviet interceptors and surface-to-air missiles. The strategy worked, until it didn't. The Soviets had built missiles that could reach any altitude. Overnight, every high-altitude bombing mission became a suicide run. The aircraft the Air Force had spent a decade building its nuclear deterrence around was suddenly flying into its own death every time it took off. The Air Force had a choice: ground the fleet, or change everything about how it flew. They chose to change everything. Instead of flying high, the B-52 would now fly low. Terrain following, below radar coverage. So low that crews on training missions reported seeing individual people standing in fields as they passed overhead. Think about what that demands from an airframe designed for high altitude. The stress at low level, in turbulent air, is dramatically higher than anything the original designers planned for. Aircraft that could not flex cracked. The B-52 bent and recovered. Every time. The wing that looked broken on the ground had just saved the entire program. Now the retirement problem. This is where everything connects. Every decade, the Air Force evaluates whether to retire the B-52. Every decade, the same conversation happens. And every decade, the answer is the same. There is nothing that does the job better. Not the B-1 Lancer. Too expensive per flight hour. Too many maintenance hours per sortie. Not the B-2 Spirit. 21 aircraft were ever built at over $2 billion each. Not enough airframes to cover a global strike mission. Not the B-21 Raider, which is still early in building its operational record. The B-52 costs roughly $70,000 per flight hour. That sounds expensive until you understand what one aircraft can do in a single sortie. Strike targets across an entire theater, carry cruise missiles that hit 500 miles away, loiter over a combat zone for hours, responding to new targets as they emerge. No replacement has matched that combination. Not once in 70 years. And now you know why. Because here is what those engineers actually built in that hotel room. Not the perfect bomber for 1948. The most adaptable platform for every era that followed. A wing designed to flex under stresses it had never been tested against. Engines designed so that catastrophic loss was survivable. A bomb bay designed for threats that did not exist. Every decision pointed at one thing: survival across time. That is the answer to the question I asked you at the beginning. What kind of design survives a weekend and still works a century later? One that refuses to be built for today. Because the engineers understood that today always ends. The Air Force currently operates 76 B-52s. All of them are scheduled to fly until at least 2050. The last one will retire after roughly 100 years of continuous service. No military aircraft in history has come close. And right now, those aircraft are being modified to carry the AGM-183A hypersonic missile, a weapon that travels at 5 times the speed of sound, a weapon that makes most existing air defense systems obsolete. An aircraft sketched on hotel notepaper in 1948 will soon carry a weapon that did not exist 5 years ago. You built that picture yourself, piece by piece through this video. The wing, the engines, the bomb bay, the 1960 pivot, the retirement problem. each one connecting to the next until the answer was obvious before I said it. That is exactly how the B-52 works. It gives you the pieces, and you understand what it is before anyone tells you. Some machines outlast the empires that built them. The B-52 is one of them.